this is a breakdown of a short Rhodes Jam I put together. My challenge for myself here was to do something, literally anything, with the Novation Peak. This is my first sort of experiments. Find some presets, throw something together, see what we can do. So the first preset I came across was this Rhodes sound. It's called All Rhodes or something like that. It uses the wavetable oscillators, so it combines the clavier wavetable oscillator and the there's one at Rhodes. There's a Rhodes wavetable as well, so it combines the two of those. Pretty simple. I added a synced delay, which you can hear on the quarter notes, and then just started messing around on an electric piano I have as the MIDI input. And that's actually how I recorded virtually all of this, was by recording MIDI and then sending the MIDI to the peak. And I just hit play, let the MIDI run, record the audio, then go to the next track, hit play, run the MIDI, and that meant that I was able to use multiple patches from peak to compose together into this piece. So that Rhodes sound is pretty simple. And then at this first break, you hear these sparkles come in. And honestly, that's probably my favorite sound in the whole piece. It's exactly the same Rhodes patch, but it's pitched up using some of the upper octaves. I've panned it left and right using an envelope. And for this, I didn't record it on MIDI. I pressed the notes on the keyboard, but I played it straight into the MIDI editor here to just get quantized 16th notes to get that sort of arpeggiated kind of feel. But I really like how that came out. I will probably use that technique again. So, whoops. So that's the sparkle. The next sound to come in, we also have a bass sound. This is another preset. It's called Trouser Mover, which is hilarious. And it's a very simple patch. It's just a basic saw wave with some glissando and portamento, and some filtering, and pretty basic patch, but thought it sat quite nicely. I'm also using the OmniStreams pad, which is literally the first preset on the machine. Wanted to play around with it a little. I think I cut some of the reverb out. It was a little much. I'm also just panning it kind of randomly here with an envelope as well. I also scooped out some of the bottom end. So I tried to do everything on the peak, but I did EQ in Reaper. So took out some low end of this, took out some low end on the Rhodes, just to make a bit more space for the bass. Later on, we have a lead sound that comes in. That's this one. And this is one of the bass presets, actually. It's called Old School Funk, but this is the upper octaves rather than the bass octaves of it. And made quite heavy use of the mod wheel here for the vibrato, which you can hear on some of the longer notes. And then this patch is a pretty typical analog synth lead type patch. A couple of detuned saws with a little bit of reverb on it. And quite like the sound. It doesn't quite work with the piece that well. Structurally, this piece is kind of a bit weird, but wanted to put something in, wanted to play around. That's what we got. I did cheat a little bit, and right on the final note, that delay, I cheated and added that using Reaper because I only wanted it for the last note and couldn't bother re-recording it basically on the peak. Finally, we have the drums, which I recorded on a Digitact. And so I started this before I got the Digitact, so I initially just had some MIDI drums, but I wanted to try using them. And a somewhat silly thing I did was to them. Yeah. Somewhat silly thing I did was try to use the Digitact to sequence the drums, which was weird because the DAW here is my primary MIDI controller. So I sort of had two controllers that I had to sync up. trying to do that just with MIDI didn't really work. It was too hard to get them lined up, but using Digitact with Overbridge worked quite nicely for this. The only downside is the Digitact won't start, like if I start in the middle of a bar, it won't start playing until the start of the next pattern. So you sort of need to start before when you wanted to hear the Digitact. And sometimes it got a little weird. So it was a bit odd. I think if I did it again, I would probably just sequence the MIDI in the DAW and just send the channels rather than using the start stop and using the sequencing capabilities of the Digitact. Yeah, I think it's best to use one or the other for sequencing, not both. But it worked out in the end. It was a bit weird because of the random 6/4 bars that I added. Don't know why I did that. Made my life quite difficult. But it meant that I needed 2 patterns on the Digitact to make it work. One of them in 4/4, one of them in 6/4. And to change between them, I sent program change messages from MIDI. So here you can see this one, which is to program number 0. The key thing here is you need to set the MIDI channel to whatever the auto channel is on the Digitact. I've read on some forums that the default is 14. By default was 10. Make sure you check, otherwise it's not going to work. The other thing that I had to do, if you try and send this on the Overbridge channel, it doesn't work. I needed to have a separate channel, which I then routed to the Digitact MIDI device, the Digitact USB MIDI device. And that ended up working well overall. So that's the piece. That's the jam. Hope you learned something. I certainly did. And I'll see you next time.